Okay, hi brothers and sisters. Quick little video here. Got a new computer, courtesy of my precious sister. Yeah, she's my sister. She's nobody else's, but not for that reason either. She has a precious spirit. She really does, in so many ways. Um, she's a good example for me. She is. So, courtesy of her. I was waiting till after Christmas to look for a computer. I kind of already knew the one I wanted, and I had told her. She actually bought the same one, and at the same time, she, I guess, ordered me one. And she's so generous, too generous. But I do appreciate it. I'll get her back for it. Somehow, some way, some win, at some time. Yep, at some win, I will get her. Let's see. We were gonna actually look at the covering, is what we're actually gonna look at. And hopefully we won't be too long. I rambled on and tried to make a video of this twice already, and I'm not gonna do it anymore. I'm gonna just crimp it up right short here. We're gonna look at one verse in Isaiah 22. And it says, "And he discovered the covering of Judah, and thou didst look in that day to the armor of the house of the forest." Now, we have looked at this particular chapter in context of the Key of David. So if you want to know what we discovered all of that meant, you'll have to watch some preceding videos to this, pick and choose whichever ones. Slowly watch it and slowly weave the truth together for yourself based on what we have already studied. And he discovered the covering of Judah, and thou didst look in that day to the armor of the house of the forest. So we know this is the house in the Forest of Lebanon. We've ascertained that this was the women's house. This was actually considered the government of God, where the congregation of women would have met on the North Mountain, is what it's identified as being called. I'm looking more into it. Once I have a very comprehensive understanding of all the passages that I am currently putting together, which could be a while yet. I have kept track of them by actually taking many notes, many notes, and many little study here and there off to the side, so that hopefully I keep track of all that my mind needs to, so that I can get that comprehensive overview of everything. Then we'll do a study on it. But for now, this kind of led me off, like that study led me off into a different branch, which took in this passage, but I didn't begin here. So he discovered the covering of Judah, and thou didst look in that day to the armor of the house of the forest. So we found the congregation of women surrounding their head identified as an ash heap, meaning she had actually been rejected by the one that she was in covenant with, which we discovered was actually the first Adam. He accused her. Satan is another name for the accuser. Satan is another name for Adam, the accuser in the heaven, who accuses womankind as wanting to play his harlot and letting him write the law, which was her rightful inheritance, as we've come to understand, which is why the house in the Forest of Lebanon actually factors into what Solomon was doing to her rightful birthright and position of authority. We find the sons in the nation of Israel rejecting the covenant with the daughters in Israel. So we get the Judah, we get the Israel, we get the south, we get the north. The north is where the firstborn of mother's womb would come from. That's identified as the daughter herself. And it was her law that was to rule first in Israel, and then it was to be taken out to all other nations that would also come of her, where we understand that more and more from various passages. So what happened? He discovered the covering. What's the covering? All right. Well, if we go to Deuteronomy 27, verse 15, this is what it reads. It reads, "Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman." And this is what drew me to this particular passage, "and putteth it in a secret place. All the people shall answer and say, Amen." Okay. We get you. We understand you. We won't do it. And we find them doing it. We find them making an image. Where do we find them making an image? But first, let's look at, very quick, before we look at the image, we will look at Isaiah 47. What does she say? Now remember, an image hid in a secret place. This time we're going to take this from the female angle. We're not going to go after the idol of Baal, which is standing right in front of your face. We're going after the one that they hid. And the idea is that they hid it in a ritual, right? First, they were playing out these ritual, and we'll take you to the passage right quick and show you where they were actually playing out these rituals of this female idol in particular. But what does she, the female idol, says? Remember, in secret, Isaiah 47:10, this is Queen Babylon in view, the lady of the kingdom, the one exalted in the heart of man. This is how she gets there. But she says in verse 10, Isaiah 47, you have trusted in your wickedness and you have said, she says to her, you have trusted in your wickedness and you have said, no one sees me. Your wisdom and knowledge misled you when you say to yourself, I am, and there is none beside me. Oh, but there was one other beside her, that was man, Baal, the idol of Baal. This one's hidden, remember? She's hid in the heart of man, the harlot that exalts his idol, Baal, which you find in Daniel 2. Now, I can go through all of that weave, and it might take me an hour to completely explain it all to you, unless you choose to go in and watch some videos and pull those threads together for yourself, because when it's all said and done, it's going to be sealed up in that little book at the end, and that little book is the truth that they've weaved all through the Old Testament and some in the New. Now, where do we go to see these hidden idols that they were making? We're going to go to, oh, and let's read this right quick. No. We wanted to look at the word secret here in Deuteronomy 27:15. So the word secret here is 5643. It means a covering, a hiding place, secrecy, noun masculine, noun feminine, backbiting, a covering, hiding. Again, he discovered, what does it say? 22, verse 8. And he discovered the covering of Judah, and thou didst look in that day to the armor of the house in the forest of Lebanon, is where this is talking about. Go in and look at it. So the palace of the forest was the woman's palace, representing her body, was the house in the forest of Lebanon. We see King Solomon bringing Pharaoh's daughter that he had taken in covenant up out of the city of David. That would be a lower place. That was Jerusalem. And he was taking her up into the house in the forest of Lebanon, where we are told that the congregation of women identified in Psalm 68 published the word, meaning they took the law out into the land of Israel, and from Israel the law fed out to the rest of the nations. That was how it was supposed to be done, and it was from the women's tongue. Now Solomon discovers this covering. He does. And we get an understanding of the covering here also in Deuteronomy 27:15. Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and putteth it in secret places. Covering, a secret covering, which is the harlot exalted in man's heart. That's the secret going on, all right? And we saw Solomon bringing Pharaoh's daughter up out of the city of David, which is Jerusalem, to a higher place. He built Milo. Milo, when we go in and look it up, it means terraces, I believe is what it says. Terraces, the definition of terraces means steppings, like a stepping bunch of steps in a series of steps, that are flat type thing. And so in a sense, he was giving a nod to Egypt, the land of Egypt, when he did that, which is the land of idolatry, which is why we see the Red Sea happening to be parted. Okay, is our just, and I could, like I said, I could go into a great deal more detail. So here we get a covering What does God say about a covering in Isaiah 25? Where is that? God says this in Isaiah 25. So now I got it back in there. And it says this of a covering. Of a covering. Verse 7. And not he, she, we discovered, will destroy in this mountain the face of the covering cast over all people, and the veil that is spread over all nations. Okay, what mountain? Well, it's not the house in the Forest of Lebanon, that mountain, the Mount North. That's not the mountain where the covering cast. Well, it may well be, but it's hid. What we discovered, because that Harlot Spirit is what exalts Baal as God. So he then takes possession of her throne, possession, not position, position too, but possession of her throne. We then see her shaking the bonds off her neck, the bond of the man-made religious law off her neck, and rising up out of the dust of the earth in Isaiah 52, and actually claiming back her throne, which we are told that she will actually in Zechariah or Zephaniah separate herself from the harlot Babylon. So then we end up with two here. So we got the key of Solomon in opposition to the key of David, and vice versa, key of David against the key of Solomon, which is Harlot Spirit that bows to the image of Baal husband as if he's Lord and God, which is exactly what Solomon was taking steps to do when he brought Pharaoh as opposed to one of the real daughters of Zion, the daughters of Israel, to wife. He chose harlots from all the surrounding Adamic nation, and made many covenants with them so that in fact he could actually tear down the upper house in a sense. And so we saw the maker of the upper and lower pool, that was upper Beth-horon, lower Beth-horon. Shira made that. Her name means remnant or kinswoman is the meaning of her name. And yet it says, you look not to the maker thereof. And that's right here in Isaiah 22, which is this covering cast. And we saw that the women would go up to this upper pool and they would wash their clothing with the fuller soap. It's women who washes the garments and keep it clean. But you see, when he discovered the covering cast, Solomon, and along with kings like Hezekiah, took steps to ensure that that would get changed. And so what happens is he actually ends up changing the flow of the water by completely removing the upper pool. He removes the upper house. They, in fact, tear down the government of God's house, which was the woman's body, represented by the woman's temple. There's two in existence, not one. But then she comes under him as if he's her head and Lord. And that came from men like King Solomon, taking the steps necessary to bring that about. So they tear her house down, they tear the water down, and they bring it down so that the lower pool then becomes the upper pool, right? And then they establish Jerusalem as the man's temple, and where women from Israel would come and worship at their temple. That was an invitation. Come worship at our temple. So there's a hidden idol of a naked female body is what you're kind of getting here. Because when we go to, can I find it? Okay, it's not there. Where is it? Ezekiel is where we're heading. Okay, so Ezekiel, we can go there. But we're also going to go first to, let me see here. Ezekiel 8 is where we're heading to. So in Ezekiel 8, verse 15, what does it say? What does it say? No. No, it's not. I'm in 13, that's why. That's my trouble. Okay. So it's 8. Sorry about that. It's hard to keep track of the threads unless I've got my notes written right out. And I don't. Okay, so we go to verse 8, Ezekiel chapter 8, And we're going to go to verse, what was it? 12. We go to verse 12, and this is what it says. Then said she, this is the glory speaking to the Son of Man, a son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, do in the secret, right? You hide an idol in secret. What does it say? Deuteronomy 27, verse 15. Cursed be the man that maketh any graven or molten image, an abomination unto the Lord, the work of the hands of the craftsman, and putteth it in secret place. Then said she unto me, Son of man, hast thou seen what the ancients of the house of Israel do in the dark, do in the secrecy? Every man in the chambers of his imagery. For they say, the Lord seeth us not, the Lord has forsaken the earth. What do we get with imagery here? Remember, this takes us straight back to the wicked imaginations of Baal's own heart in Jeremiah 23. Yes, I'm doing air quotes, sorry, bad habit. But if we go in here to imagery and hit on that word in the King James is the word they use, imagery here. You know what you're going to get? And the word is, okay, maybe it's not. And they use idols for that word. And it's 4906. And you hit on that, and you know what you get? A showpiece, figure, imagination, noun, feminine. Look at that. Me. So what were they making in the house of Israel? Because it tells us that the men were doing this in the house of Israel. They were making images, and this is female, it's feminine. You'll get male idols as well, but this time here they're feminine and it's hid. The prophet is told to look in a hole at what they're doing in secret, or to dig by the wall and to look in and see what they're doing. And here they're hiding images according to their own wicked imaginations, and these are female images. So Lord only knows what they were doing with these female images, but she's hid. This is, and it also gives the idea in these passages, and I don't know if it's this exact word, of a ritual being played out. Specifically carved figure, an idolatrous symbol, imagination. Well, the conceit was of their own heart of making a harlot that bowed to man as if he was Lord and God. So we know that this is to the debasement. Let our eyes look upon Zion, let her be defiled, is where you go with that, which is Micah 2, I think. And yet God says, you know not the thoughts of me. And daughter Zion says, I have shaken my head at thee. Know ye not what I planned long ago will happen? I saw what you were from the beginning. You were a thief and a liar. And you were a thief, you took her goods, and you lied when you wrote all the laws, making her your harlot, and you accuse her, so you could write the law and take all her goods and make her your harlot bow down at your feet. I knew what you were from the beginning. I knew what you were. I could see it. And I think that's her mother actually speaking, who she represents on earth. So God says, when you did what you did to my daughter, you did it to me. You turned on my covenant when you turned on my daughters, is the idea. You know, to study the word does not have the idea of picking it up and reading one verse or two and go and say, those men on the pulpit are not to guide you. It is the Holy Spirit that is to guide you into all truths. And God says, learn to rightly divide the word of truth. That's your admixture of doctrine identified as the Red Sea. And it is the Holy Spirit as the sword of God, the truth of God, that will part that admixture and deliver her children out through. She was also called the presence of God on earth. And God calls her out to present her case finally at the end. She was there at the beginning, rejected, and she will be here at the end. That's her first coming and second coming. It wasn't 2,000 years ago, man, and he comes in at the end. Study. But understand it's a little book, because when the men of Baal got a hold of this, they put the he pronoun everywhere when they were not supposed to. And most of the time when you go in, it'll say not there. It's not even there. They just stuck it in there. But God says to him in Jeremiah 23, you who began to prophesy through he, through Baal. You say, I sent you, and I sent you not. And then you begin to prophesy the burden of the Lord, which was the deliverance of the children by the women inside the nation of the Lord. They said, no, it's too hard for these women to deliver children. I don't see men delivering them. And she says, the daughter of Zion has shaken her head at thee. The children have come to the birth, and there is not strength to deliver. So we see them changing the covering over, which is a representation of the glory, over to a harlot spirit that would bow to Baal. And he cast some of the starch to the ground, and he stamped upon them. It was these daughters that he was stamping upon to play God, Baal. Yeah. The number 666 links one time in the Old Testament and links back to one man, and that is King Solomon. And it is he changed the portion in the midst, the flock of Basra, from the key of David, the righteous daughter of Israel, whose right was to write the laws and take them out into the land. And from there, the men were to take them out to the rest of the land and implement that. And they turned on her covenant. They tore her down. That's right. And then they put in play the key of Solomon, which is women bowing to husband as Lord and God. To them, we get these women are led away by their own foolish lusts and desires of a perfect man who would die for them and shed his blood to wash them clean. You don't wash in blood, you wash in water. Wisdom says, I wish you would learn to reason and make sense. Theirs don't. Theirs don't. 50% of the world's population under man's made religious lies and laws. That's right. You say, well, we're not all. No, but it's cyclic, ain't it? It's always us that they rip the rights away from. It's never themselves. No, because they're godlike entities on planet Earth. Oh, tickle, tickle. And the harlot spirit in the land is women bowing to an idol of a man and getting led away by their own foolish lusts and desires. Now that's what it's saying. She's saying, grow up. That's what she's saying. You've had to drink the myrrh from the law system. You have. You're the one that's bearing and carrying the burden, the deliverance of the children on your shoulders. Why don't you do it? Why don't you do what you're supposed to do? Deliver your children in truth, not in a lie. In Isaiah 42, she says, long time have I held my peace. You know, one of the authors, I wrote him under one of my videos a long time ago. And his quote, to some degree, has the idea, if you can tell your foe or your opposition to be silent, nothing will strengthen you to be greater than having their silence. And that's just what this creation of a man God has done. Well, God appointed us to tell you, because we're your head, and we're telling you, God tells you to be silent and shut your mouth. So Psalm 50, she says, long time have I held my peace. Actually, Isaiah 42 says that. Long time have I held my peace. Now will I go forth as a travailing woman. She's going to part that admixture of doctrine and lie and lead you out of the land of idolatry, which is Egypt, where the solar calf deity, also called Baal, also called bridegroom, come from. So that's the sword of God. That's the presence of God, the camp of Mahanaim. Jacob wrestles with. I think we're living in possibly the day of Jacob, which could be Judah's trouble. That's current day Israel because the 10 tribes are not there. The 10 tribes was representative of the feminine and her land that they actually destroyed and took away and tore down and has never been put back in place with her rightful position of authority. They come from the 4 corners of the world. The 10 northern tribes do, which is also going to be the rock that smashes the feet of that idol of Baal as your Lord and God. You were to have no idol before you, neither male nor female. So the covering that they put in place, of course, is a harlot spirit hid in her heart, but then that leads to the exaltation of Baal as Lord and God. And we see him exalting himself to her throne on the North Mount. We see that actually spoken of in Ezekiel 28, and we know it's Solomon spoken of because there was only one wiser than Daniel, and that was King Solomon, and Tyrus is in Lebanon. And that's where he exalted first. Then he tears it completely down, brings it down to Jerusalem, the male as the head and God of everything in her idol totally hid, or her image totally hid from view, which we find in Isaiah 47, the Harlot Spirit saying, "No one sees me, I'm hidden man's heart." She won't stand up for her own house. She'll bow to his and build his up for him. Because they tore hers down, they used a great deal of violence. And then we see women like this in Ezekiel 13 helping out with it. And this is spoken to the false prophetesses. I've heard men actually use this to present that women aren't supposed to preach. Well, we also get false prophets. So I guess men aren't supposed to. So they'll use this false women prophets. Women aren't supposed to prophesy. You want to bet? They were the ones that met with the Almighty God. They were the one to bring the laws of heaven to you. That's validated by Job. Job 30:31. Why then should I think upon a maid? For what portion of God is there from above? The inheritance of the Almighty from on high. Mother's daughters is her inheritance. And from Mother Almighty come the laws that established the heavens, because you know who laid them out with her children? She did, not he. XY don't create life. XX creates life. X flows like a vein in all our bloodlines. She is the mother of us all. Have we not all one mother? Oh, but they got there in is it Malachi 2? Have we not all one father? No, we don't. You're wrong. You're wrong. We do have all one mother, however. There's XY and there's XX. Get it? And she will get a double portion. Yeah, that's right. A double portion. So, false prophets, women prophets, likewise, thou son of man, set thy face against the daughters of thy people. Now we see why in a bit, which prophesy out of their own heart, and prophesy thou against them, and say, thus saith the Lord God. This is daughter Zion, daughter Israel prophesying. This is her number 136. All right. She is the sovereign Lord that was denied from the very beginning for the harlot that Baal husband wanted as his own Lord and God. That's the abomination of desolation. She'll have no spirit, no children that'll hearken to the spirit of her covenant. Yeah, that's the abomination of desolation, a man inside of a man. It'll lead to her degradation, and it has. And she's bowed down at his feet, playing his harlot, quoting New Testament scripture, not being bothered to actually part those waters. God says, learn to rightly divide the word of truth. And that's tied up into that little tiny book. Because though they wrote the he pronoun all over the place, they could not completely remove all remnant of the truth. It is still there, but you got to search for it and find it. And so I was going somewhere with that and forget it. So this is another interesting part here. And say, thus saith the Lord God, woe to the women that sew pillars to all armholes and make kerchiefs upon the heads of every stature to hunt souls. Will ye hunt the souls of my people? And will ye save the souls alive that come unto you? Don't you know, I can't remember why that was so important. I know it's connected to Astral. Astral. Where did I read that? Let's see here. Oh, why didn't I write that down? Let's see, I was so sure I'd recall it. It was that important. I'm gonna see, do I? Oh, okay. Yes. Yeah, but I still don't get why I was leading up from somewhere with that. Because I have a huge study I intend on doing if I can ever get it all pulled together. So, this kind of led me to, it's funny because I know I hit on the exact word, but I'll never find it. So they sew pillows to all armholes and make kerchiefs upon the head of every stature to hunt souls. Will ye hunt the souls of my people, and will ye save the souls alive that come unto you? I don't like that translation. Maybe it is the one I need, though. Will you ensnare the lives of my people, but preserve your own? You profane me in front of my people for handfuls of barley and scraps of bread. So we know they were starving the women out. That's what that verse is important to note. Because they were doing it for what? For reasons of food, to stay alive. Because by this time we know men had taken full control of her law. They were actually writing women's rights right out from under the law. So I suppose livelihood in many senses was extremely difficult for many of these women. And the ones who were not turning away from the truth were making themselves a prey to the point that they were literally murdering them, gnashing them, and taking them out. The ones that were staying in play were the ones willing to be bought off to do what they were doing here, which tends to lead to the idea of astral beings. And it's important to note that I know I hid it somewhere, but why did I not write that down? Sorry about that. It may be in my notes here, but I have so many notes. When you got so many thoughts around in your head all the time trying to connect them, it can get difficult if you don't take every little note down, which I don't. I get tired of taking notes. Um, so you hunt the souls of my people, and will ye save the souls alive that come unto you? And ye will pollute me, my name. The firstborn of the womb, the daughter. That's who they were polluting. And it was the women themselves helping the men out do this. We see them also, Tammuz, the women in Ezekiel 8 were also responsible for making cakes to the Queen of Heaven. The Queen of Heaven was Babylon, the harlot. She exalted herself to the commander of the host. Commander of the host would have been the key of David, the daughter there, the righteous daughter. And the it gets exalted there because she's what's hid in the heart of man, but he exalts her there because her will exalt him in the land, you see? So you want to be careful because what's in his heart, if he's your head, he's making you his harlot by teaching you a religious lie and law to bow to the image of Baal. And God says, you changed your glory over to that which eateth grass, a bull, the solar calf deity, which came straight out of the land of idolatry, Egypt, which is also where our witness died. But our witness is also identified as God herself. At the end, she says, I will stand up and I myself will testify. I myself saw what went on. I know what went down. So they pollute it for handfuls of barley, pieces of bread, to slay the souls that should not die, and to save the souls alive that should not live, by your lying to my people that hear your lies. So what were their lies? Well, they were lying to the daughters in Jeremiah 23, the men of Baal, who began to prophesy through the he. It says it straight out. They began to prophesy through Baal. They began to prophesy through the he pronoun. She was willing to let it just be neutral. You saw no image, you make no image. You don't say he or she. You say you follow the way of God. That's what you're supposed to do. I told you to make no idol. You make no image, neither male nor female. They end up making a male idol. We see in Jeremiah 23 how this began to play out. They began to prophesy through the he pronoun to these daughters, who was willing to listen after a great amount of violence had come upon their head, and the Lord only knows what they witnessed going on in the land. Actually, we see a lot of it still going on in the land. To the women who won't bow to the male police, policing them and telling them what to do and won't listen to their head, telling them what to do because heart's exalted in their heart and says, no one sees me. So there's a ritual. They hid an actual image of a naked body somewhere in a temple that is a key player in what we understand. We know this because of the cursing that goeth over the land in where is it? Of course, that's not there either. Oh, there it is. It is there. Zechariah 5, the flying scroll, the curse that goeth over the covering. Yeah. God says, I will tear down this covering in your mountain. Isaiah 25. Then I turned and lifted up mine eyes and looked, and behold, a flying roll. You know what this represents? Covenant of God. That's what this roll, a scroll would represent. And she said unto me, what seest thou? And I answered, I see a flying scroll. The length thereof is 20 cubits, and the breadth thereof 10 cubits. So I think we're to ID the temple, the ritualistic temple that is actually holding the harlot spirit in it, though she's hid from view. You're not supposed to be able to see her. And that was important. She actually had to disappear from view in order for his idol to be exalted. And that's exactly what we see happening. Then said she unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth, he was a thief and a liar from the beginning. He swore deceitfully. He swore he would uphold her covenant, and he did not. He turned on her, and he stabs her in the back. He gnashes upon her. They were the bulls of Bashan, circling these righteous daughters, this government of God that has in the Forest of Lebanon. We see the dogs surrounding her and gnashing and piercing upon her. We see Jeremiah 9. This is all allegorical to what was going on in Jeremiah 9 and the other chapters that led up to that, where they were actually tearing the women's rightful inheritance in their houses down, representing their own personal bodies and inheritance. And we see them, they were piercing on the daughter Zion to tear her down out of the land. And we actually see precious souls like Jeremiah was weeping for these daughters in the slaying of them. It says they slay the daughter of my people, and he wept for that. And that was the key of David that was being slayed out of the land. Then said, and this is the curse, this leads to the curse that goeth forth over the whole land. This is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off, as on this side, according to it. And everyone that sweareth, that's the liar. You swore you'd uphold my covenant, you liar, and you did not. You accused me. You accused me of being your harlot, of wanting to be your harlot. When you in Jeremiah 23, you prophets ran, yet I sent you not. And you began to prophesy through he, and you began to prophesy through Baal yourselves. Watch them on the pulpit. They do it every time they crawl up them steps, slither up them steps. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side, according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side, according to it. So there we get the thief and the liars, the thieves and the liars. Oh, bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief, and into the house of him that sweareth falsely, lied by my name. You made my daughters your harlot, and I told you that is not the scepter that I rule through. I do not rule through the key of Solomon. I rule through the key of David. The daughters are mine, and they will uphold my law on their tongue, not your lying theology that puts them in subjection to a man's head that's got a harlot exalted in there. No one sees me. She's your covering, isn't she, boys? Oh, but the womb of Sheol lies exposed to the Lord's eyes. Yeah. So with the womb of Sheol, are we at agreement? What does it say? Let me find it. This is important. Because here we actually identify who Abaddon is. Now, I've took angles at this, a variety of angles. But when we put it in the context of Sheol being her, the women, the harlot spirit, in covenant with him, then we kind of understand what's in view. I believe it's Job 26, rather. I'm sorry, this video is supposed to be shorter. So, Job 26. Yeah. Verse 6. Sheol is naked before not him, her. She has the keys to hell and of death, not him. Sheol is naked before her, and destruction, Abaddon is the word there, had no covering. See? Had no covering. So, who's the Abaddon? Baal. Bridegroom. Who did not uphold her covenant, who was the liar and a thief. He stole her goods by taking away her rights, which is why the women are found starving to death and willing to turn on her own house for a handful of barleys and turn on her own mother's name. Yeah, he has no covering. You have no protection. The only ones that could protect you was the daughter, and she has the key to the gate. She's the key. Key of David. You don't get out of the womb of Sheol. It says the kings are trapped in the womb of Sheol. They can't get out. Can't get out. And they're still trying to tell the witness, you don't know what you know. The witness has to testify in order to turn the key. I could explain that, but I didn't expect this to be this long. So, then saith she unto me, this is the curse that goeth forth over the face of the whole earth. This is Zechariah 5, verse 3. For everyone that stealeth shall be cut off as on this side according to it, and everyone that sweareth shall be cut off as on that side according to it. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house of the thief and into the house of him that sweareth, took a covenant with me, who lied, and it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. So, what does it say this curse is? We go into further allegory as we scroll down. And I said, what is it? And she said, this is the Nephi that goeth forth. And she said, moreover, this is their resemblance throughout all the earth. The idol exalted in man's heart so he can play God. It's basically a harlot that exalts man as God, which is the abomination of desolation. A man inside of a man, he exalts himself because she exalts him. She doesn't go against him. The womb of Sheol is at agreement with the destroyer, Abaddon, who is really Baal, your husband, who accused you in the beginning, and Satan is just another name for Adam, your accuser, who daily accuses you of wanting to play his harlot. And Mother gets really upset about that. So, and behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this is a woman that sitteth in the midst of the ephod, that's a basket. And she said, this is wickedness. This is wickedness. This is what goes over the face of the earth. This is the covenant, and this is the liar and the thief. All right? And he tore her house down. He did not want the law off of her tongue. We get the pride of Adam, the pride of Satan, who daily accuses us. And he's so sure he's never going to get caught, but he does. And so with Ezekiel 13, yeah, let's not forget this. We'll wrap this up. With these women, they hunt to make them fly. Now, I can't remember, but it seems like I found the word astral. But where do we get the understanding that what it means here could mean the astral? The astral plane is what we're looking at, because I asked this question. Let me see, where is it? Where is it? Okay, so it must be back here. Okay, I asked this question. Now, you can say I'm foolish. Maybe you ask these questions to yourself. God tells us to order our conversation aright, which means seeking for the deeper truths. Doesn't mean just listening to men on the pulpit preach themselves as God and you're nothing. That's not what it means. So I asked this question. I said, does the spirit or soul leave the body at night while we sleep and return in the morning? So now that made me think of that in Ezekiel 13. You sow, they were sowing the armpits from all, and what it sounds like is they were sewing them shut. And so when you look at the garment as the body, the human body, again we go to ritual, and by taking the action of taking a garment, right, and sewing this together, they were actually, and it said that this is the side where the spirit will come out from the sides of the body, which was feminine, and that this was the part of the temple where it dwelt. And if they're in ritual aspects, taking a garment and sewing them shut, then they were preventing the body, the spirit that possibly left at night, yes, from returning when they would come back to their body. Now, this is what I had asked once again, just will bring you up to speed. Does the spirit or soul leave the body at night while we sleep and return in the morning? This is what the AI responded here. I'm kind of having fun playing with the AI because it's just got input in it from what man put in it. It's not taught to reason. So the concept of the soul or spirit leaving the body during sleep is a topic that has been debated for centuries. There are different beliefs and theories about this topic, and it depends on one's cultural, religious, or philosophical background. According to some religious beliefs, the soul or spirit leaves the body during sleep and returns in the morning. For example, some Christians believe that the soul goes to be with the Lord after death. However, there's no scientific evidence to support this. On the other hand, some people believe in the concept of astral projection, which is the idea that the soul or spirit can leave the body and travel to other places or dimensions while the body is asleep, which is why we would sleep at night. However, this is not a scientifically proven phenomenon. In conclusion, the idea of the soul or spirit leaving the body during sleep is a matter of personal belief and interpretation. There's no scientific evidence to support this claim, and it is not a widely accepted concept in the scientific community. Okay, so let's go back to what we just read in Ezekiel 13, all right? And say, thus saith the Lord God, that's 136, your sovereign Lord that was denied in the beginning, right? As your foundation stone, that the law system of this entire world was to come from, and that's she, the sovereign Lord is she, not he. Woe to the women that sew pillows to all armholes. This is a ritual. And make kerchiefs upon the head of every stature to hunt souls. Will ye hunt the souls of my people? And will ye save the souls alive that come unto you? And will ye pollute me, the daughter, made in my mother's image, among my people, for handfuls of barley and for pieces of bread? That's the law system under attack, women under attack. To slay the souls that should not die, and to save the souls alive that should not live, by your lying to my people that hear your lies. Wherefore, thus saith the Lord God, behold, I am against your pillows, wherewith ye there hunt the souls to make them fly, and I will tear them from your arms, and will let the souls go, even the souls that ye hunt to make them fly. I wonder, are these souls still trapped in the womb of Sheol? I've studied it, and it indicates that indeed they are trapped there on the other side, and they do watch us from that other side. Now watch this. This is where we're heading. We're heading to Strong's Greek, astral being. You think there's no support for this idea that we travel. We travel at night when we sleep. Greek 4747, stuchion. I don't know if I'm saying that right. One of a row, letter of the alphabet, the elements of knowledge. Plural, the heavenly bodies. B, a rudiment, an element, a rudimental principle. That's the principle that we're built on, the false foundation that God says is going to burn with fervent heat. That's a judgment of God. That's the sparks that'll light the way of truth. Get that furnace really burning. An elementary rule. Properly fundamentals, like the basic components of a philosophical structure, a philosophy structure, etc. Figuratively, first principles, like the basic fundamentals of Christianity. Yes, that's a false foundation. 4747 refers to the rudiments with which mankind were indoctrinated before the time of Christ. No, they were indoctrinated at the time of these men of old coming in and sitting beside women and telling them everything's your fault, and then they get led away by their foolish lusts of believing in a perfect man willing to die and shed his blood for her, when in actuality it's just all trappings by Baal. The elements of religious training or the ceremonial precepts common alike to the worship of Jews and Gentiles. However, this is interesting. The RSV, however, renders stoxia as elemental spirits, i.e., spiritual power or cosmic spirits. This views 4747 stoxian elements as ancient astral beings associated with the very beginning makeup of the earth. So they were preventing their coming and their going by locking out their gateway. That's what it looks like. Yeah. And Solomon seals up these gateways, which rightfully belonged to the daughters of Zion, and the women were in cahoots with them to do that for handfuls of barley and some bread. And they were willing to crush her own house, the house in the Forest of Lebanon, the woman's palace, which we also see in Reconstruction in Song of Songs, chapter 8, when she actually began to deliver her children back into the truth. And God promises, daughter Israel, I will rebuild you again. Yeah. And that has to do with her government of God on earth, the house in the Forest of Lebanon, that King Solomon moved to tear down and put in place his own temple with polluted waters that then fed out to the four corners of the world with the false foundation that man was God and woman would bow at his feet and he was her head, even though he's got the harlot exalted in there hidden from view. Yeah, it's all there. But it's for the few who's willing to hear wisdom, not for the ones who picks the Bible up. The feet of the idol is Jesus, which we see fed out from the idol that was standing, actually would have been the Grecian kingdom, where the living waters flowed out of, and is currently what is keeping our entire kingdom based on a man, which is the religious lies and laws that it tells us that when you look that word up for waters, in most cases, I think it's Miriam, and it'll also say semen, and we know why it says semen. He pissed in her waters. She is the well, the living well of water, where you were to receive the law and doctrine from, and you would not. That was the pride of the first Adam. His heart was exalted. He just could not receive the law off of her tongue. And she says, they bring accusations against me, and I don't know where they're getting them from. Jeremiah 23, I sent you not, yet you ran. And you began to prophesy through he, and it literally says through he. And then after Baal got control of her law, he just keeps writing and writing and writing. But there's still little remnants of it still existing that you can put little book together. Yeah, and present your case. If you order your conversation aright, the Holy One will show you the truth. And you will be able to present your case in the time of the showing of the Almighty One. Yeah, you'll be able to present your case. Because you'll have it in order. Because she'll have set it in order for you. Thank God for that. Okay, so that's the video. Again, it's almost an hour. Sorry for that. There's so much to be studied in that. I wish I had time. I took so many notes down, hoping to keep my thoughts together. We are going to do the wisdom study after Christmas, is my hope. Sometime in January. We'll take 4 chapters. I'm serious on that. The video will probably be extra long, but we're going to take 4 chapters. I think that's 13, 14, 15, 16. And I think the Apocrypha Wisdom is 19 chapters long, I think. So that'll only leave us 3 more chapters. I can count. 3 more chapters after that to study, and hopefully we'll have that wrapped up sometime, by February, I'm hoping. In the meantime, I'm on to this new study. It's really fascinating what I'm learning in the words. And that is what it means to study. It means to order your conversation right. If you're going to just go, hey, it's him is God, and it says so here, forget it. That is not your conversation ordered aright. You order it right when question arises in here to do with wisdom. And the result of wisdom is reasoning. It reasons out, it makes sense. Father gave life, did he? He laid the heavens out. How exactly does an XY, if the tabernacle below reflects the one above, exactly does an XY do that? Order your conversation right. Start asking the right questions. And the Spirit and the Holy One, who are one and the same, will answer them for you. I guarantee you that. So there's a video. Thanks for watching. I hope you're blessed with an abundance of truth. And I hope y'all have a lovely day. And thanks for watching again.